Let's freaking go! A fun, juicy Power Hour SEC Hog live stream. We're going to talk everything LSU Arkansas. And as we always do on a Thursday, we're going to go through all my favorite picks for this weekend. It's even going to go outside the world of Arkansas versus LSU. And obviously, to start things off here, I was looking at some numbers a little bit earlier today, and Sam Pittman's defense is potentially underrated. Now, you take a look at the teams that Arkansas has played up to this point, and they have not really been all that great. Obviously, Kent State, Western Carolina being an FCS school, and BYU, who only scored 14 on Sam Houston the week before. This defense for Arkansas has been pretty good. It has been pretty good. And you take a look at, some of these numbers from this past week. Arkansas's defense is third in adjusted EPA per play. Also, they are third in yards before attempt allowed throughout college football. So, as you can see, this is on, my LSU page here. The sample size is small and the competition is weak, but Arkansas's defense has been very aggressive. And you see at the top right here, third in adjusted EPA per play. So obviously very impressive. And as you can see right here, I actually X'd out of it. They are also a team that is really freaking good at getting ball carriers down to the ground. And they have done a really good job of being very aggressive. But guess what? BYU was able to use that against them. They ran a lot of misdirection plays, and that's how they were able to score their explosive touchdowns, okay? So, obviously, big shout out to Travis Williams. As Johnny points out here in the chat, he played at Auburn. He was a linebacker coach at Auburn under Gus Malzahn. Then he went with Gus Malzahn to UCF. Now he's back at Arkansas. It's amazing how much Gus has fed the Arkansas program up to this point in his career. So the truth is, Travis Williams might actually be a very, very, very good defensive coordinator. Also, as we discussed earlier this week, this game is down between, to me, the two best quarterbacks in the SEC. Now, you can make a strong case for Jackson Dart. A case could be made there. But no one in the East really comes close to those three for me in the West. I understand some will make an argument for Spencer Rattler. I don't necessarily see that one. But, yeah, this is a game, a game in which, well, I think Jayden and KJ could potentially struggle, right? Mississippi State's team is very flawed, and we're in a spot right now in the season where let's just see how Travis Williams really does in his first major test. Yes, there were 31 points given up in the BYU game, but a lot of those were on short fields. Remember, BYU had a long kickoff return. They also had a lot of third and long conversions, and they also scored a lot of touchdowns on trick plays and reverses and that kind of stuff. And it wasn't necessarily reverse, but it was a reverse action that led its way to the touchdown. It is very interesting how good this Arkansas defense has been. They are loaded with talent. One of the more talented Arkansas defenses from a blue chip ratio, and that's mainly because of the transfer portal. So now they're going up against an actual offense here. And we'll see, because Jayden Daniels and Malik Neighbors have been nothing short of incredible these past couple of weeks, and those guys are going to be really hard to stop. Now, obviously, there is more to this game. There is obviously a bigger storyline with this game, and that is the Arkansas-LSU rivalry in and of itself. Skipper brought this up recently on one of my LSU shows. He misses this game being played on Thanksgiving. That was obviously a big thing. What's up, Kevin? Good to see you. And yeah, I think Arkansas is better defensively than Mississippi State this year. I really do. But Mississippi State has really good linebackers. They just don't have the same DB talent that Arkansas has. But yeah, KJ just fell apart. So yeah, next thing here. I want to talk about the major storyline going into this week, which is the Arkansas LSU game and its future. Okay. What does this rivalry look like? The one thing I can constantly say about Arkansas football is you are constantly on. Everything that you love, it gets ripped away from you. Now, you still get the SEC check, and no one is not taking the SEC check at this point, but they're ripping this rivalry game away from you. I have a tough time believing Arkansas and LSU will remain a permanent every year rivalry. So these will be the last two games this year and next year that LSU and Arkansas play every season. So enjoy this while you can. This could very well be the last game played in Tiger Stadium for quite some time. And you're also getting the night game treatment. Obviously, a few years ago, the game was played at night as well, but still, this is a rare occurrence here in a game that means a lot to Arkansas fans. You know, you go back and you look at the history of Arkansas football, the games that you guys would point to as the biggest wins of your modern era are all against LSU. They're all against LSU. Ryan Mallett in Little Rock, when there were sugar cubes thrown on the field. The obviously 2007 game. Those are some of your most iconic moments. Miracle at Markham. And LSU fans have just never reciprocated the rivalry. Even though this game has been one of the closest games, one that I adore, obviously playing high school football in South Arkansas, but my whole family being from Baton Rouge, it's always a game that I've enjoyed, the battle for the Golden Boot. But part of why this rivalry never really got bigger is, number one, Arkansas is not a marquee program. LSU is. And it's just, it's not hate. That's just the truth. But the main reason is because LSU fans just don't care as much as Arkansas fans do. And that is a major, major advantage for Arkansas fans going into this game. This is the Super Bowl for Arkansas and the rest of the season, right? So, yeah, I mean, obviously LSU needs to win this game to realistically stay in this playoff race. And Arkansas, I think, coming off a loss that they feel like they should have won, it's going to be a game that obviously a lot of you are going to really, really, really want to win. Okay? So we'll see. We'll see how this actually plays out. But, man, you look at it from the Arkansas side of things. You also look at it from the LSU side of things. LSU has had a lot of historic moments in this game, right? The Tyrann Mathieu game in 2007. And, of course, the Jarvis Landry game in 2013. There's so many moments from an LSU side of things that makes you go, wow, this really has been a game where, you go back to a time period for that decade, all the way up until, I believe, like 2013. 8 of those 9 games during that decade, actually 9 of those 10 games during that decade period, was decided by one possession or less. And the only blowout game was the Tyrann Mathieu 41-14 game. Now, after that, there were a few blowouts because Chad Morris sucked. But even then, there was a one-possession game mixed in there. And obviously, the last 3 of these have been decided by a field goal or less. So when you look at this point spread at 17.5, that goes against what recent history says, right? So it's very, very, very interesting to see that. Okay. Now, once again, if we get to 50 viewers, obviously in the next 20 or so minutes, we'll be giving away a KJ Jefferson card right here. Okay. So let's get to a few of these comments here. They're saying Luke Haas could be better than Hunter Henry. Let's slow down there. Luke Haas has been a really good player. I don't know if he's that good, but we'll see. Yeah, I will say this, Kevin. when it comes, if there is one positional advantage that I feel Arkansas has over LSU, this might be the only one. It's the corners. Okay. Arkansas's corners are more experienced and just better than LSU's corners up to this point in the season. Everywhere else, I think LSU has an advantage. I think quarterback is pretty even, but LSU's offensive line is way better than Arkansas's offensive line. LSU's running back room is way better than Arkansas's running back room, minus Rocket Sanders. LSU's wide receivers, I think this is the biggest gap, is way better than Arkansas's wide receivers. And then defensive lines, I would say they're relatively even, but LSU's is just better, especially if you factor in the matchup. The linebackers are pretty even. Safeties, pretty even. Corners, Arkansas has the advantage. Special teams, LSU's got the advantage. So, yeah, it's gonna be a very spicy game. So there you go. And these are the two teams I watched the most. Obviously, with the Arkansas film studies we've been doing, and also LSU is what I do. So it's been my full time. I guess you could say jobby for well over 3 years now, but essentially my entire adult life. So yeah, if you have any questions about LSU, I'll be very happy to answer it. Want to also shout out the Woo Pig podcast. I was on there yesterday, and I was also on Golden Boot and of course AYS, other great YouTube channels. So there you go. If you ever want to reach out to me, at Card of the Power is where I am on Twitter and Instagram. I'm also a model, so be on the lookout for that. I mean, this beautiful face and body, gotta show it off. I can't just leave all this all bottled up. I'm sexy and I know it, baby. LMFAO style. So, if you want to support the show, it's pretty simple. You can go to Underdog Fantasy and underdogfantasy.com. Okay? All the information is down below. Just click that link and make sure when you sign up, you use my promo code Carter. Yes, you've got to use my promo code Carter, and you can get a deposit match bonus up to $500. Yes, $500. You put in $500, they give you $500. You put in $10, guess what? They give you $10. And guess what? We can do these higher, lower games on Underdog, and you can win big. Okay. So let me know what you guys think about these higher lowers for the Arkansas LSU game. For KJ Jefferson, I'm going to go higher on his passing yard numbers right here. And for me, 209 is a lot. 209 is a lot. So should I go higher or lower on this? Jayden Daniels, I'm going to go lower on his passing yard numbers. I could see LSU moving the football just fine without actually needing to air it out. And also, of course, Arkansas's corners being better than Mississippi State's corners, and it's not really close. So I think both of them will be around that 225 mark. And for Andrew Armstrong, 52.5 receiving yards. Let's go higher here because if KJ's going to get there, I would think Armstrong's going to get there. And Logan Diggs, we're also going to go higher on the rushing touchdowns. And let's see. BTJ, 64.5 receiving yards. I'm actually going to go lower here. And Damian Ramos. Oh, we're already at 5 picks. Can we do another one? Okay. So we're already at five picks. Should we roll with this one? BTJ, lower than 64.5. Logan Diggs, higher than a rushing TD. Jayden Daniels, lower, 274.5 passing yards. Andrew Armstrong, higher. Jefferson, higher. I kind of want to go lower here for Logan Diggs because they do take him out of the game in goal line situations. So, you want to talk about the Twitter situation? So I'm actually going to go. I actually think Logan's going to score, but I actually am going to go lower. Actually, I could just take that one out. Look, you can do two things. You can get the full standard payout, or you can do the insured. Okay. One. All right. Sign up. You can do this for yourself. Underdog Fantasy, underdogfantasy.com. I kind of want to go higher on Malik Neighbors here. Let's see. I'm going to go $1 here. This is fun. Let's go to Dante. Do you think Malik Neighbors will start in the slot to test the safeties early? I think that's a smart thing to do. Arkansas's slot defenders aren't as good as their outside guys. Lorando Johnson had some tough moments this past weekend. But yeah, I could definitely see it. So we're actually going to roll with this. $1 to win 6. 3 to win 150. Who's tailing me? Type Y for yes if you're tailing me on Underdog Fantasy. Sign up now, promo code Carter. KJ has 200 plus rushing yards against Bama. Johnny's just talking crazy. Yeah. Oh, Johnny's got inside information. No, I don't think they'll shadow him. Arkansas's other corner might be better, Singletary. So we're going to roll with this. We're in there. Oh. Now let me get my pick 'em in. It's all good. Underdog Fantasy, underdogfantasy.com. Yeah, I don't. That's crazy. Will they have McLaughlin shadow Neighbors? Singletary can't tackle though. It's true. I would say McLaughlin's a better player. Oh. Let me see. Let me pull up all the other games for this weekend. We'll start with the SEC. Also continue talking LSU versus Arkansas. Type Y for yes if you have watched all the Arkansas film studies, or at least one of the Arkansas film studies I've done. Here we go. Let's go through these games that I like, games that I don't. Texas A&M up to an 8-point favorite versus Auburn. You know, this was at 7.5. Now it's up to 8. You know, it's interesting. The quarterback matchup here features a more experienced Peyton Thorne going up against obviously only a true sophomore in Connor Wigman. Connor has been playing really well, though. He's amongst the nation's leaders in QBR. So there are some that feel Connor is reaching another stratosphere here. I know the numbers don't really like Auburn. They've played 3 relatively weak opponents. They did have a week 2 road game at Cal Berkeley. Very lucky to win that game. So for me, I love Texas A&M in this spot. I'm still very bullish on Texas A&M and over their win total at 7.5 before the season. I know that loss to Miami was huge, but I also think it was a little bit of an outlier. I think there will be a positive regression of sorts with Texas A&M's talent on defense. They are terrible defensively. But I do think they're going to have a game where they just come out and just dominate. I would be more concerned about playing Auburn later in the year than early in the year. Obviously, learning the Hugh Freeze system. So I am going to with Texas A&M covering the 8-point spread here, even though it's up from 7.5 to 8. I think Texas A&M wins this by 10. I do. Kentucky at Vanderbilt is very interesting. Kentucky has not been challenged at all, and this game's at 13.5. You have a Kentucky team that lost to this Vanderbilt team last year, and Kentucky is getting ready to complete the softest opening month schedule we have ever seen in SEC football, right? 3 school of nothings, and now here we are, okay? And Vanderbilt here is a team that has actually challenged themselves and has played in competitive games. And they have played the Wake Forests of the world. Now, Wake Forest isn't some kind of great program, but they have played something. Up to this point, Kentucky has played nobody. And because of that, I actually do like Vanderbilt in this spot. I think for me, obviously, Kentucky has a quarterback advantage here. I think their receivers are better, but it's not as if Vanderbilt's quarterback and receivers, Swan, Shepard, and those guys are bad themselves. Vanderbilt's passing attack has been really good this season. Now, albeit level of competition has been up and down. I don't like the fact that Vanderbilt is coming off a weird road game versus UNLV, but let's just see what happens here. Vanderbilt, I like them covering here. Type Y for yes, tip in for no if you actually believe me. Okay. And let me make sure I'm not just envisioning something else. I believe that was a road game. And let's see, versus UNLV, it was. So Vanderbilt coming off back-to-back road games. And as we always talk about here on Power Hour SEC, that is a brutal, brutal, brutal way to play. It's tied to Graybert. It's tied to Tony. We'll keep it moving here. Alabama at home versus Ole Miss. Alabama 7-point favorites versus the Rebels. A lot of positive steam on Ole Miss here. Obviously, if you were going to get in on this game, you would want this game to be at 7.5 instead of 7. I actually do like Alabama in the spot. This is an Ole Miss team that, yes, this opening month of games has been one of the trickier and tougher opening months of games we have seen in the SEC up to this point. Obviously, an improved Tulane team. They were able to get it done. A Georgia Tech team. This just feels like a weird Alabama bounce back spot, right? And Lane Kiffin and all these mind games that he's played, I don't know. I think I'm going to get a lot of disagreement here. I think a lot of public money is going to be on Ole Miss here. But I could be totally wrong. Obviously, Alabama at home, anytime you get a single-digit spread, you'll get a lot of people just still betting the brands here. But, yeah, I hope this game is a classic. But for some reason, this just kind of feels like a gut thing for me. I think Alabama is going to play inspired football with Jalen Milroe at quarterback. So, for me, I think out of this game, though, my favorite play is the over. I think this game is actually going to feature some fireworks here. So we'll see. Now, if you guys have a game that you want me to break down, I'll happily do it. If you want to get back into Arkansas LSU, we can do that as well. Tennessee UTSA is very interesting. So this was a game I had circled on the calendar as an upset special. I really like this UTSA team coming into the season. They have underperformed, had some weird injuries, but I think Jeff Traylor can make this game somewhat interesting. But obviously, up to this point, these two teams had a lot of positive momentum going into the year, and they have both not looked as good as most thought up to this point in the season. So because of that, I'll stay away, but I am leaning towards the UTSA side of things here. But I could be totally wrong. All right. And obviously for the rest of the SEC, not really a whole lot of sexy other than, to me, Mississippi State, South Carolina. Now, Missouri, 6.5-point favorites here. I believe this is a neutral sider in St. Louis, so that'll be fascinating, but we'll see. South Carolina, Mississippi State. Weird spot right here with Mississippi State not looking all that great. The more interesting side of this is the under. Okay. So this game had been floating in the 50s, with the over under win total being in the 50s. And now this is all the way down to 47 and a half. That is a major, major swing with both of these teams' quarterbacks being healthy. The big difference here, though, is South Carolina is without Antoine Juice Wells. So for me, I'm staying away from this one. But for some reason, I'm thinking the over is a play here, even though both offenses had their issues last week, and both offenses are desperately needing some skill guys to step up on the outside. Okay. So let's take a look at the rest of the big games here. And we click top 25, a lot of top 25 versus top 25 matchups. Okay. You do have Oklahoma, Cincinnati, Oklahoma, 14-point favorite over the Bearcats, 57.5, the over under sitting right there. Florida State, Clemson, Florida State, a 2-point favorite here. Out of these two games, I know this game has gone from Florida State at 2.5 to now down to 2. Florida State in a back-to-back road game situation. It feels like Clemson is the side here, but I don't know. There's a piece of me that thinks Florida State will actually cover this spread. You move along here with Oregon, Colorado. Colorado on the look-ahead line was 14 last week, and now it's all the way up to 21, only a week after Colorado struggling with Colorado State. Very fascinating line movement. I do like the Buffaloes here to cover that spread. Utah, UCLA, fighting Dante Moore's a true freshman on the road. Not loving that at all. Obviously, UCLA, the better offense. I am leaning towards the over here at 52.5, but we shall see what happens. Okay. Notre Dame, Ohio State, 3-point favorites. I really like Notre Dame here. I like Notre Dame covering the spread at 3. Iowa and Penn State, a rare line here. Penn State 14 and a hook favorite over Iowa. But the more interesting thing is 14 and a hook and the over-under being at 40.5. What an all-time point spread over-under pairing here. I am leaning Iowa to cover. I think this game could be a little bit of a slobber knocker. I do. Okay. Graybird's going Baylor over Texas. Yeah, so this is what I was expecting. We mentioned this a minute ago. I've not actually looked this week at where the money was actually going. So now this is lending me to think Alabama is going to crush Ole Miss. It's at 7. If it gets down to 6.5, it might be time to get in on the tide, baby. It might be time. Look, Ole Miss did not play well on the road versus a Tulane team with a backup quarterback. That was the nastiest backdoor cover of the season. Then they had another backdoor cover versus a tricky Georgia Tech team at home. Man, and you know Nick Saban's going to be motivated, right? After what Lane Kiffin said about his defensive coaching. So, yeah, I got to be real, man. I got to be real. I am liking the Tide more and more as time moves on. Let's go to Kevin. What is my college football playoff prediction? By the way, if you want to support our channel, feel free to hit the super chat button and go straight to your question. And yeah, how about we do this? I kind of wanted to get this card out. Any one of you that super chats, $25. I'm sending this to you. No questions asked. KJ card. my college football playoff prediction. Okay. Now, before I give that, don't forget, support PHL, Underdog Fantasy, promo code Carter. It's right there for you. Just go check it out. Underdog Fantasy, underdogfantasy.com. At this point, Michigan has a pretty nice path forward. So we'll roll with them. With the way McCarthy's playing, they look pretty good. I still like Florida State. I think Florida State finds a way to win this game versus Clemson, even though it just feels like Clemson is the right side there. Florida State back-to-back road games. That's tough. That is tough, right? But I am going to roll with the Seminoles. And Michigan, the Seminoles, obviously Georgia's an easy pick. And why not? LS freaking U as a fourth team getting in. That would be kind of tricky, though, how that would play out. It would be tough for Georgia and LSU to get in. That would have to be Georgia being undefeated up until the SEC championship game and LSU beating them. Okay. Also, that would need to require potentially Ohio State losing a couple. Notre Dame's obviously in this picture as well. So, yeah, there's a lot of teams in that mix. And I think the sexiest team, I think the team that everybody wants to see in the playoff and a team to find its way back amongst the college football elites is Penn State. I think with the talent Penn State has on their team, obviously when it comes to elite recruits, there's not many backfields with as much recruiting prowess at quarterback and running back as Penn State has this year with Singleton and Allar. But yeah, I think a lot of people want to see Penn State back atop the college football pyramid. My guy, my mother effing guy, Tonka, what's good, brother? FSU with 78% of the bets and 76% the money on them. That means Clemson is a lock at this point. When it went down to 2, that lets you know that the sharp money is going in on Clemson. I mean, when you really think about it, who needs this game more? Is it Florida State or is it Clemson? Well, it's without a doubt Clemson, right? Florida State wins out and LSU continues to win. Even though they lost this game to Clemson, let's just say Florida State wins out and they have this one road loss to Clemson. They still have a really good playoff shot. And I think Clemson is flawed enough to lose another game. So you look at Clemson, look, they're talking about the end of the Dabo Swinney reign. All right. They're talking about Dabo is washed. He doesn't use the portal. There's going to be a hungry team coming out. And yeah, it should be interesting. One thing I'll bring up is Will Shipley was a nightmare for Florida State last year. Can they stop him this year? We'll see. We'll see what happens. He had that really big run versus Seminoles last year. Now, we get back to LSU Arkansas, which is why a lot of you are here. Okay? A few more things on this game. We talked about the history. We talked about how much this matters to Arkansas more than LSU. And the history and all that stuff is very important. But I do want to bring up one thing, because someone referenced this earlier. I think it was Johnny Jones, one of our commenters, about people overreacting to Sam Pittman deactivating his Twitter account or whatever he did. I could feel a little burnout from Sam Pittman, right? A little burnout. And, he's always in a way been compared to Ed Orgeron. He really has. A lineman coach with a lot of energy, who's at his dream job, who, loves football. And one thing they're going to be good at, it's going to be the trenches. Okay. Well, where is the one position group where Arkansas sucked the most? It is the offensive line. Okay. I get the wide receivers not being great. I get that. That does not shock a single Arkansas fan that the separation hadn't been there. And no, Rocket Sanders obviously hurts. But Arkansas fans, you have watched this team every week. And obviously with the detailed film studies, I've pretty much watched every snap. Your jaw has been to the freaking floor, seeing how little holes there have been in the running game. Okay? So let's be real here. This is very strange, looking at Arkansas's offensive line just getting put on their rear ends. Okay? Obviously, the Twitter deactivation, Sam just doesn't seem like himself. It does feel a little bit different. Maybe you guys can correct me on that. Also, I in a way this kind of reminds me of Les Miles, the end of the Les Miles tenure. Les Miles hired one of his good friends to be an OC. Cam Cameron had a lot of pedigree, but it didn't work out. Right now, Dan Enos is not working out. So I'm not saying Sam Pittman's given up, but when you have maxed out, you feel a little burnout. And I think a lot of Arkansas fans feel this way themselves. All right. You feel like you've already hit your peak. What else can we actually get out of Sam Pittman? It's weird. But I think it has crossed Sam Pittman's mind. He's already gotten a big check. He's already gotten a huge raise. He's set. And he is also a very low-key guy. He just, he loves coaching football. He loves Arkansas. I'm not saying he doesn't love the job. It just kind of feels different, if you ask me. It just does. Especially knowing all the different stops he has made as a coach. And then you get to this point, and you're like, well, what else do I need to prove? What else do I need to accomplish? It's an interesting situation. Or, as Tunka Todd brings up, maybe Sam looks at it differently. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe he still has that hunger and that fire, and he's just trying to block out the noise. And he is fighting for his coaching life, and the players know it. They know a win here would drastically change the narrative. Okay? Let's go to Dylan here. He says, the team play reminds me of when the team gave up on Chad Morris. Okay. I will save all of my Chad Morris stories for a different day. Everybody has their Chad Morris stories. Everybody has their Chad Morris theories. I've got a ton of them. And when you realize that everywhere this guy has gone, this guy is not worked out anywhere else he's gone. Okay. It is weird. It is very weird how big of a failure Chad Morris has been at other places. So obviously the big difference here, Sam Pittman has accomplished quite a bit. Chad Morris has not. Okay. It does kind of feel similar. Now, the difference here, Dylan, is for Chad Morris, the team gave up both years. Okay. I think obviously this Arkansas team is going to play very hard this game versus LSU. But if you lose, especially if you get blown out, you might have to start really questioning the future of everyone. You just do. Okay. But whenever you ask yourself this question, is a coaching staff getting stale? Do they have reason for the team to just kind of give up? Well, the answer is not really. Travis Williams has a lot to prove. He's still hungry. He's still on the ascent. I always like to have at least one coach on one side of the ball on the ascent. And obviously, Travis Williams is on the ascent. Okay. Dan Enos is not. So let's see. Let's go to trouble with the curve. Come on, people. Them Hogs going to give it a run this weekend. One last push for the season. Yeah. Now, truth be told, I actually really do like the Arkansas 17.5 point spread. I think this game is going to be close. I do. I think LSU wins by 10. But I have slowly faded off of that. And there is a good piece of me that thinks LSU is going to run this team off the field. Okay? There is a piece of me that feels that way. Just a piece. So there you go. Now, in the next few minutes, I'm going to answer as many questions as we possibly can. If you super chat, we'll keep the party moving. Okay? Dylan says, if we lose to LSU, find 4 more games the Pigs can win for a bowl. I'm not seeing it. Okay. I'll pull up this Arkansas schedule for all of you to gander. We'll get to this. A&M, Ole Miss, Alabama, Mississippi State. You get that Mississippi State game at home. They're not that good. At Florida looks way tougher now with the way the Gators look, but you'll be coming off a bye week. Auburn, FIU, Missouri. So more than likely, you're going to be 2-2 after this weekend's game versus LSU. Texas A&M is winnable. Ole Miss, Alabama on the road. A little more winnable than most years. Mississippi State, you should win, so that could be win number 3. At Florida, coming off a bye, toss-up. Auburn, toss-up. Victory here. And if you're at 5 wins, I really like Arkansas in the spot at home, fighting for a bowl game. So I still think 6 is there. I still think 6 is there for Arkansas. I do. Okay. No, I think some of those other games are winnable. I do. Florida is winnable. You're coming off a bye. I think that is obviously very winnable. Okay. Florida's got bigger games on that schedule left. They still got to play Florida State at the end of the season. Okay. And Florida's going to be coming off the Georgia game. So, yeah, I mean, and in a look-ahead spot at LSU the next week. So I think Florida's winnable. I do. I don't – obviously, Florida's going to be favored, but they don't have the kind of offense that will run you guys off the field, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I think Arkansas still gets there. I do. Now, I would be a little worried about the over win total 6.5, but that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough. I really like the over 6.5 for Arkansas. And I like the over 7.5 for Texas A&M. The issue is they both lost their Power 5 non-conference games, And that really hurts the win total. It really, really, really does. Okay. Yeah, Dylan, I still have Florida State in my playoff. They were my number 3 team in this going into the season. I had Georgia number 1, I had LSU number 2, and Florida State number 3. And obviously, Florida State deserves to be ahead of LSU right now, and a lot of other teams do as well. But I think also from the LSU side of things, you're a true contender if you blow Arkansas out. I will say this, though, Dylan. From the LSU side of things, even though they won the West last season, they have not blown Power 5 teams out in back-to-back weeks. Okay. They did have a stretch of 2 really strong performances in back-to-back weeks with the Florida and Ole Miss game last year on the LSU side of things. But it's hard to blow a team out in back-to-back weeks. It really, really, really is. But yeah, I think Florida State will win the ACC. I do. Even if they lose this weekend, I think they'll win the ACC. There you go. All right, you guys. And once again, if you're going to the game, hit me up. We're doing a little meetup tomorrow night at Zippy's, a very fun Baton Rouge taco and daiquiri place. I go there for the daiquiris. They're great. And we're doing a little meetup on LSU's campus at noon at the Greek Amphitheater. So if you're interested, send me a message at Card of the Power on Twitter or Instagram. Okay? It is Power Hour SEC. Boom. Now, I do have a little something for you guys. This was actually on my LSU channel. Okay. But I do want to show this to you guys. Okay. If you want a film study on LSU versus Arkansas, right there. Okay. And tonight we are doing salmon night 2. Let's go. Let's